Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something absolutely fascinating. We are stripping away the cinematic pop culture myth of Japan's most famous samurai, Miyamoto Musashi, and we're diving straight into the grounded historical reality. Get ready, because the truth of his life, it is literally even more incredible than the fiction. Okay, let's dive right into this. You know, in pop culture, Miyamoto Musashi is celebrated as this legendary, almost superhuman, undefeated 17th century samurai, and the brilliant author of a treatise on strategy called the Book of Five Rings. But I really want to hook you right here, because historian Kenji Tokitsu has done some incredible work uncovering a historical reality that is far more gritty and complex than the movies suggest. By turning a critical eye on Musashi's life, Tokitsu separates that lone wolf myth from the actual heavily structured world he lived in. To truly understand Musashi, we have to look at the world that forged him. You see, he didn't exist in a vacuum. He lived at this pivotal turning point in Japanese history when the very role of the sword and the samurai who wielded it was rapidly changing. Section 1. Evolution of the sword, from battlefield to budō. So Musashi lived right at a crossroads. During the 15th and 16th centuries, the formative period, Japan saw constant feudal wars and brutal battlefield slaughter in heavy armor. But by the 17th and 18th centuries, which is exactly when Musashi was coming of age and growing older, society was actually stabilizing under a unified government. So the sword's purpose was completely shifting from sheer battlefield survival toward a more spiritual peacetime practice known as budō, or the way, which eventually evolved into the modern kendo we see post-1945. What's really fascinating here is the massive explosion in the number of recorded swordsmiths during this era. From just 450 smiths in the Heian period, jumping to 1,550 in the Kamakura period, and then skyrocketing to 3,550 by the late 16th century. That is a massive jump. It totally highlights the incredible rise of the curved slashing sword and its absolute, total dominance in warrior culture, right as Musashi was entering the world. But when exactly did he enter that world? Finding out his true origins requires some real historical detective work, because the surviving records are just full of missing pieces and startling contradictions. Section 2. A Clouded Childhood, Unraveling the Timeline. The first hypothesis relies on the traditional belief that Musashi was born in 1584. But here's the massive paradox. His family tomb clearly states his father, Munasai, died in 1580. I mean, how could he be born 4 years after his dad died? It just doesn't make sense. But Tokitsu offers a brilliant solution in his second hypothesis. He proposes that Musashi was actually born around 1580. See, Musashi wrote in 1643 that his life adds up to 60 years. Tokitsu argues this wasn't some strict mathematical fact, but rather rhythmic phrasing. It was a super common poetic way in ancient Japanese texts to say, "in my 60s." This elegantly resolves the whole parentage paradox and proves his father could have actually lived long enough to teach him. And keeping his dad in the picture is absolutely crucial for understanding what happened when a young Musashi stepped into life-or-death combat. Section 3. The First Kill, a 12-year-old's brutal reality. He who wishes to fight me with the sword should write his name and the date of the duel on this notice board. This arrogant public challenge was issued by a traveling adult swordmaster named Arima Kihei. What happened next is absolutely stunning. Young Musashi, who was just 12 years old at the time, shocked everyone. He took a brush, painted the adult master's challenge pitch black, and boldly wrote his own name right over it. Which brings up a question I want to pose directly to you. How on earth did a 12-year-old survive a duel to the death with a fully trained adult master? Well, the answer lies in the harsh, unforgiving psychology of combat. Arima Kihei fatally underestimated the boy's deadly intent. He thought it was just a child's prank, so he came into the ring completely relaxed. By the time he realized the boy was fiercely determined to fight for his life, the initiative was already lost. Here's the actual combat sequence. Step 1, bang violently into the opponent's chest. Step 2, duck the incoming sword strike. Step 3, throw the opponent by the legs. And Step 4, strike brutally between the eyes with a wooden sword. Guys, this wasn't a graceful, cinematic, choreographed sword fight. It was a swift, brutal physical takedown that utilized momentum and absolute shock. The boy just threw his whole body into it. That sheer practicality and raw mechanics defined his entire life, leading us directly into his most iconic legacy. I'm talking about his dual-wielding two-sword technique, and the final historical mystery regarding how he actually invented it.
Section 4. Origins of Two Swords, Debunking the Myths.
So two of the most popular legends claim that either he was inspired by watching a Shinto priest beat a drum with two sticks, or that he invented the style spontaneously while fending off an angry mob of peasants with an oar in one hand and a wooden sword in the other. Let's just quickly dismiss these popular legends right now. True martial arts mastery, especially the kind that founds a highly systematized, centuries-long lineage, rarely comes from an isolated magical stroke of genius or a random village brawl. So here is the crucial point. The jitte is a metal weapon equipped with hooks used to parry a sword blow, and it's traditionally wielded with one hand. Now remember Musashi's father, Munisai? He was a renowned, elite master of this exact weapon. Musashi's revolutionary dual wielding likely evolved practically from his father's specialty. Wielding a one-handed jitte required the very same hip mechanics, footwork, and diagonal body tension that Musashi later applied to holding a second sword in his left hand. It's like a giant puzzle piece falling into place. And this historical reality is totally backed up by the Kakura Monument, which was erected just 9 years after Musashi's death. It reads, "The creation of the art of two swords on the basis of the art of the jitte was a development of his family art." That right there solidifies the historical reality. Musashi wasn't some mythical lone wolf who materialized out of thin air with magic techniques. No way. He rigorously reorganized an existing, inherited family tradition into something completely revolutionary. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer. How much of our own modern success relies on mastering the boring basics passed down by our predecessors, rather than believing in mythical strokes of isolated genius? Musashi's absolute greatness didn't come from a magical vacuum. It came from a deep, rigorous grounding in the existing traditions of his father, which he then bravely evolved through trial and error. It is a really powerful reminder that true innovation is almost always built upon the foundations of those who came before us. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the real Miyamoto Musashi, and I will catch you in the next explainer.